one woman, and welcome. We're here with the amazing Charlene Doak-Gebauer. How are you today, Charlene?
I'm great, Charla. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. And it's so great to see you because I haven't seen you since you spoke at the Fearless Women's Summit in London, Ontario last year. So it's so wonderful to see your smile and to catch up with you as to what's all going on and what you've got happening for this amazing year of 2020. So let's talk a little bit kind of about your background and story, because you had one of the most compelling talks at the London event, and that I was really interested in, because you talk about a really tough subject when it comes to internet safety for families and especially for children. So let's talk a little bit about your background and how you got into that line of work.
Well, it all started with an unfortunate experience in my family. I had a niece that was a victim of internet child exploitation when she was 4, and lived her life to the beat of her own drum, like so many sexually abused children do. And this was done by neighbors. It wasn't by someone, a family member or anything. It was by neighbors. And then she was killed by a drunk driver when she was 22. And I'm a computer specialist and network administrator in education. And I was re-imaging a machine and discovered it on the computer. You don't know that garbage until you see it firsthand. And after that, I thought, what can I do to help my family get through this trauma? Sat down, started researching, decided to use my computer expertise and develop a theory of digital supervision for online child protection.
Yeah, which is absolutely amazing, because I just think like such a tragic event to happen and so devastating for your family. But I think what an amazing thing that you've done in terms of creating something that can help families navigate this, because I think that it is such a scary issue. And I think it's probably one of the biggest concerns parents have, because we live in a digital world. Mm-hmm. Children are glued to devices now more than ever before. But parents constantly have that fear as to who's talking to my children, who has access to it, posting images or what they are sharing, what kind of access people have to, their children's life, and how they can put safety measures into place. So what are some of the key things that you do to be able to help parents and families navigate all of this?
That's a very loaded question. In my theory of digital supervision, it's in 3 parts: awareness, method, and hope. And hope, I have to emphasize, we can do this. And too many people put their arms in despair. They say, my children know more than I do. And I tell them, no, they don't. Especially after being a teacher in a school of youth. They know how to game, social media, email, chat. They really do not know much about computers. And as parents, it's up to us to protect our children. So what I've done is developed a theory of digital supervision for user-friendly methods. Too many people are concerned, and even if I talk about a filter, a computer filter, they look at me as though I'm talking about filtering flour. And it's an extra piece of hardware that would go on a machine. So I talk about that in my presentations. I talk about developing something positive out of something negative. And that's more for the corporate world, because too many of us are consumed with negative issues and don't realize if we try to do something positive out of a negative, it changes us and it changes everything. So when I'm talking to people about online child protection, I do it in a positive way. I do talk about statistics. It's a problem that has increased by 10,000% in the last few years, and that is research done by Thorne in the United States. It is not something we can ignore anymore. It is something that we have to start dealing with. We can't do this anymore. We must be looking at it realistically.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that's, I guess, probably your most powerful superpower is just being able to share those tools and how that people can implement these things and be able to sleep at night and feel good about living in the world of internet and access for themselves and for their children and families. So let's talk about kind of some of the places where you have shared that message and who you're passionate about empowering, and where you've kind of spoken in the past, so that people can find you, or how we'll talk about how people can get you into their workplaces or in their community events or whatever, to be able to share these messages.
Well, I have spoken globally. I have been in Iceland, Europe, India, the United States, Canada. In fact, I have presented on Parliament Hill in Canada. And it's something that corporations, I think, should incorporate, to use two words, simply because all employees, whether they're parents, grandparents, even single people with worry about nieces and nephews, are concerned about the internet. And to raise morale and have people realize this is a huge problem in today's society, our children are being exposed to more violence, suicide, bullying than any generation in the history of the world. And let's face reality, ladies and gentlemen. This generation is the most independent of any generation in the history of the world. And let's think about that. These children are doing things online and their parents are not supervising. They don't know. I don't say parents are not doing a good job. I'm saying we need to add digital supervision skills to our already honed parenting skills. It's something that we cannot ignore anymore. The statistics speak for themselves. One of the biggest epidemics now is child-on-child sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
that is from children viewing pornography and enacting it. I have spoken in schools and I've asked kids, how many of you have seen inappropriate pictures? All of them put their hands up. I'll ask them how, and these are children that are 10, 8 years old. I'll ask them, how many of you have spoken to an adult? None of them put their hand up, because children are told from an early age, you don't go around naked. So then they see the pornography and they worry they may be in trouble. The biggest thing that I talk to parents about as well is that not villainizing your children. Do not villainize children, because they are all victims of the internet. And we need to have humanity supervising humanity. Blocking is immaterial. Save your time. We need to have humanity looking at what these children are doing and practicing my theory of digital supervision. It's huge. This needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on a really important part there in terms of the open communication, and that it's that's something that you can talk about, because I think that even adults, you click on one wrong link and all of a sudden something downloads into your computer and all this. I remember calling my friend because all of a sudden I clicked on something and all this stuff downloaded, and there's images and pictures that's popping up on my computer that definitely weren't something that I wanted to be a part of. And it happens so innocently, but can change things, and then you're embarrassed about it. And even more so, I think, for children, like you said, all of a sudden you feel like you're going to be in such big trouble. Or I think now there's so many of the different apps, whether it's Snapchat or different things where maybe adults aren't using it so much, but kids are, and all of a sudden you get this picture that's sent to you, but you don't feel like you can tell somebody, or all that kind of stuff. So I think that's a really important part that you mentioned on, is just to have that open communication and how these things can happen, and that we need to talk about them to have those solutions and have that communication that, it's going to happen, what's out there and what you do about it and what the plan is.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversations are important, but it's also important for children to realize that you will look at their devices. You will look at their cell phones. You will check all of the icons on the cell phone, because kids hide what they're doing. I mean, face it, Charlotte, did you lie to your parents? I certainly did. We all did. And as a teacher, I've had parents tell me my children don't lie to me. And I just look at them and say, didn't you lie to your parents? My goodness, we all did. And we all want to get off with something. But this becomes a safety issue for not only the child, but for the entire family. And if children are sending nudes to unknowns, The geolocator on the phone will give the exact location of where it came from. These are things that parents need to realize, and that it's not an invasion of your child's privacy. It's called invasion or evasion. Are you invading their privacy, or are we evading our responsibilities as parents? We need to protect our children. And I'll tell you that governments and people will say, what about Facebook and Snapchat? Why aren't you talking to them? There's over 25 million concurrent users on any of those platforms. There is no way they're going to be able to police that. And this is why digital supervision is important. We have to start when we have the router. As soon as we have the gateway, it's our responsibility to look after our children. Yes. And we can do it.
Yes.
Digital supervision is written in very user-friendly terms. I've had people tell me they've never realized it could be so easy to supervise their children digitally. And I could have made it more complicated, but I've made it very user-friendly. And there are people that told me they've never read a whole book, and they've read mine because they could.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to mention, that if so you do have a great book about all of this that makes it easy for people to kind of understand and implement and have the tools. So tell me a little bit about your book and how people can go about getting it.
Well, I just happen to have a copy here.
Perfect.
And this is, do I have it right side up? Yes. It is available on Amazon, Chapters, Indigo, Kohl's, 40,000 distribution channels worldwide. And the question is, the internet, are children in charge? Yes, they are. Particularly if parents are saying they know more than I do. We have to start, we have to start looking at the whole picture. And the fact that there are children addicted to pornography at the ages of 6 and 7. And parents will never know unless they're practicing digital supervision. To me, it should be a household term.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing. Like, it's even just hard to even wrap around your head around it, to know that stuff like that is that's even happening, So kudos to you, because that's a tough issue to face. So thank God for women like you who are taking a leadership role in changing the world for our children and for the children's future. And I just love what you're doing, Charlene. So thanks for doing all of that. Let's talk a little bit about your talks that you offer, because you do a lot of great talks that we have offered through our website through the Speakers Bureau. And let's talk about some of them. Like, you have Sail Above the Spillover Effect. What's kind of your whole key message behind that?
Well, in the business world, I have spoken to people worldwide, and they all say this is a big problem in our country. And we're very stressed, and at work, it interferes with their workplace, so that they're worried about their children. In fact, some people take their router to work, which, truthfully, kids will find a way to get on the internet anyway. But they take their router to work, and I tell them, avoid the spillover effect of stress from the home going into your workplace. Increase your productivity, learn about digital supervision, the awareness, the method of how to apply it, and the hope. We can do this, and we need to. Yes. So that's the spillover effect. Sail above that. We can do it.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And you do speak to so many companies and workplaces, and to so many, thousands of employees, literally, because it is such a big part. And I think that's a mandate for a lot of workplaces is, employee assistance programs and things like that help employees to navigate that. Because that's the thing, if you're so stressed out about what's happening at home, you're not present in that. And I think that's really important to, to take care of employees and that whole well-being of their them and their families, so that you can have a productive workplace as well, and healthy, happy employees. Because there's a spillover effect there for sure.
Absolutely, and it affects the morale, it affects the spirit of the employee, and it affects the productivity of the company.
Yes.
Because if people are constantly worried, worry permeates everything.
Yes, Exactly, exactly. And you just mentioned morale, and that's one of your talks is morale in the workplace need improvement. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, the morale is centered around how you feel about you, how you feel about your communications with other people. The internet changes that. An awful lot of people talk about millennials, and millennials are really getting into the workplace. They need to learn communication skills. They need to learn and differentiate between the internet and true friends and communicating in the workplace. How do you communicate with the person next to you without having to use an app? And then you have experienced employees. They need to know more about the internet and how it's working and how it can affect them as parents and grandparents and professionals. The legalities involved are huge.
Mhm. Absolutely. And you really look at the whole realm of employee well-being and the workplace, because you have some other great talks like workplace production related to nutrition. So talk a little bit about that and how you got into doing that line of work as well.
Well, I was in a car accident a few years ago, and everything they gave me for pain and anxiety I was allergic to. And I had to quit teaching. And I thought, what am I going to do? Because I probably may need medication. So started looking around and I studied holistic nutrition. And I overcame the trauma of viewing child pornography as a network administrator and the trauma of the car accident holistically through nutrition. It does make a huge difference. I'm a walking example. I believe in it. If employers are having a few employees that are having difficulties, or even families having difficulties, I speak about that and can speak about it in relation to the internet, in relation to the workplace, morale, and the health of employees.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I think nutrition is your foundation for everything, right? It's how you're fueling yourself, your body, which flows into every area of your life, you know, whether it's a family activity, going to work, you know, how you feel every single day, you know, how your body is functioning. I mean, really, it's the foundation of everything that we do. So I think that that's great that you know you're able to incorporate that with what you're doing and just how important that is to just the health and well-being of each person. And the other thing that I love that you talk about, which is your newest topic that you've added, which is changing a negative into a positive, because I think that that happens in so many workplaces. Is that with the morale and when you have a lot of people who are working together and all that kind of stuff, a lot of workplaces can turn very negative or have that kind of feeling. People dread going to work or stressed out. Or so let's talk a little bit about that talk because I think it's just such an amazing topic that you've incorporated.
Well, I call it a toxic work environment or a toxic attitude in the workplace. And I combine a lot of stresses from home along with proper nutrition, proper attitude. And in my experience, the negative that was in my family, I turned a huge negative into a positive. And I talk about the skills and methods in turning something into a positive that is very negative. It's all about attitude. It's all about the food you're eating. It's all about all of that. So um, that's what changing a negative into a positive encompasses so many things. It can be very powerful and empowering for employees.
Absolutely, and transformative to an entire company. And
That's
you
right.
know, absolutely. And sometimes it's just taking that time out and yeah, just listening and learning about getting to know your employees a little bit differently. Because lots of times all we talk about is the work, 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 as opposed to
Right.
everything else that goes into when we even walk through that door of work that we're carrying with us. And I think it's great for companies and workplaces to take that time just to recognize that and realize that, you know, we're not just the person that comes to work and does our job. We're everything that comes with that life that comes with that every single day. So it's important to take the time to do that. So Charlene, you do so many great talks. I'm guessing these can be all the way from lunch and learn sessions that are short, all the way up to half day session, full day session, multi-day session, all that kind of stuff. You do it all, right?
Yes, and I've actually incorporated a team that can help me if employers want even more.
Mm-hmm.
And they are specialists in my area of digital supervision, but it would be, you could have a full day conference. I could do one on my own. It's just a matter of, I have so many skills that I can offer. I've got computers, I have experience with children and youth and families, I have nutrition. It all affects the workplace.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's became so revolutionary to workplaces and employers now, just how important the health and well-being of their staff is. And
Yes.
it's amazing what people have done in terms of what they've incorporated in terms of whether it's, flex time to have more time with families, time for appointments for your family to be able to accompany them, tools and sessions like what you offer in terms of helping people develop those coping skills or those skills to be able to manage those things in terms of their health and well-being. So I think that that's really great that a lot of employers are really seeing the value of this and how it then translates into the workplace, and that when you invest in your employees and your staff and your team, that it makes a massive difference in that company as well. And I'm sure you've seen that in your work, that when you go in and do that, just the feedback that you get from those employers and from their team that have attended the workshops. I'm sure you've seen that time and time again.
I tend to get a lot of emails from people that just the biggest email that I get, the word is relief, that they can do it, that they can supervise their children when they're at work, that they can feel better through health and nutrition. I mean, even if I could do a whole hour on aspartame and how it affects the emotional well-being of everyone. So I have an awful lot I can offer to an employer. Computers, digital supervision, nutrition, morale, health and well-being.
Yes. Well, we are thankful for you, Charlene, and all the great gifts that you have to share with others, and to be able to empower us all that, we can do these things in our life, and that there's people like you who teach us how to do it. So thank you for everything that you do. And what we're going to do is we're going to put up all the information so that if you're interested in booking Charlene to come and speak to your team, to your workplace, if you have an event or a conference that this is one of the topics that you would like covered in that, we can definitely get you connected with Charlene to share at your event or at your workplace. We'll also include Charlene's website, which will have more details about all the great work that she does right around the world, as well as the links to purchase that amazing book, so that you have the tools that even if you can't get into a place where she's speaking in the near future, you'll have the book to be able to equip you with the tools to be able to practice internet safety and digital safety with your family in your own home. Is there anything, Charlene, that you want to leave with everyone today, or something that we didn't talk about that you want to share with our viewers today?
Well, I think I'm just going to grab something here. I'm going to read something that I live by with this. Benjamin Franklin once said, "Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are." And that's a profound statement. How often have we decided, I'm not affected, therefore I will not do anything? But we are all affected by what is going on online. It's of a magnitude that is startling. It is affecting our health. Our nutrition is affecting our health. I would welcome an opportunity to share this.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, a great way to put it at the end, because it's true. I know even if I don't have children myself, I have nieces and I have nephews, but also we're all victim of things, there's all kinds of scams and online things and whatever. And we all really need to educate ourselves as to how to navigate all that, because it's easy to get taken advantage of now and get, thrown into something that you just don't want to be a part of. And how do you have the tools to be successful in still being able to use the internet for all the great things that we use it for, because it is a valuable tool and we don't want to be scared of it, and we don't need to be scared of it because, you know, you're teaching us how to do it safely. So thank you, Charlene, for everything that you do. I want to thank everybody for watching today. And like I said, if you're interested in booking Charlene, we're going to put all the information up for you to be able to do that. And be sure to keep watching One Woman, as we have amazing more interviews coming up with women from right around the world. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.